Welcome once again back to the lab. It is your old Professor Pilkin. We've got to talk about Mewtwo. Mewtwo's raid is incoming later this week. And before I get too deep into this, whatever mon you're thinking about bringing, you're dead wrong. You've got to bring Mew. You 100% have to bring that gift Mew, or if you were lucky enough to get the shiny Mew from Pokemon Home, that would be an even better option, because whatever Mew you bring to this event will also get the mightiest mark. So, bear that in mind as we talk about this and what potential builds you'd want to bring. I do have 3 independent Mew builds that I will drop. Later on this evening, we'll talk about those. But for now, let's get into this, shall we? Now, number 1, the main thing you want to consider here is that Mewtwo is going to have a Psychic Terra, and obviously being a Psychic type, Psychic moves are going to hurt really, really, really badly. Now, before I get into the actual, damaging moves, let's talk about the setup moves that Mew's essentially going to have here. So you can pretty much guess either Calm Mind or Nasty Plot are going to be in play. Probably Nasty Plot, just because Nasty Plot is going to raise the special attack by 2 stages, where Calm Mind will raise physical attack and special attack. Mew could have a physical move. I don't foresee it being in the build, but it's completely possible. I remember same thing with Rillaboom. I didn't see a special move being in there, and there was the special move. Essentially, the way I see this going is probably Mew is going to have Nasty Plot, Amnesia, and then Psychic Terrain. Now, the nice part is because of Amnesia and Nasty Plot, we're going to focus mostly in our builds on physical attacking Mew. So, all this taken into consideration. So Mewtwo's basic skills are 106 HP, 110 attack, 154 special attack. You got to watch out for that, especially if Nasty Plot comes into play. That is going to hurt bad. Special defense 90 and speed 130. This is a beefy Pokemon. Well, I say beefy, but this is a particularly damaging Pokemon. The defense isn't that great here. This is not a Pokemon that's going to have a really hard time being taken down, per se. So I do kind of feel like most likely what's going to happen is right out of the gate, Mewtwo's going to set up. Mewtwo's going to do Nasty Plot at least once, Amnesia, and Psychic Terrain. Along with that, if you remember, there's usually about 8 different moves that a raid Pokemon can have, and I would expect Mewtwo's going to have all 8. So along with all these setup moves, expect Psystrike. I fully expect Psystrike is going to be a move that's in Mewtwo's repertoire, and probably one that he can use right out of the gate and maybe later on in the fight sometime. So that is a 100 power, 100% accuracy move and could hurt really badly. Now, the nice part is that's the only move that will have stab. And I do think, for various reasons, I'll get into... Well, we'll discuss it here. The reason I think this is going to be one of the opening moves, if not the opening move, is because you are intended to bring Mew. And Mew will actually resist that 50%. Psychic resists Psychic. Now, with that Terra, it's going to hurt badly. It probably won't one-shot Mew, but you will want to have your Mew... you won't want your Mew to have a lot of special defense. You'll want your Mew to basically specialize in special defense and physical attack. That's going to kind of be your best bet for the Mew you're bringing to the raids. So that's kind of your EV build right out of the gate before we even get to that. So I expect basically these 3 moves, sans Calm Mind, and then Psystrike there instead. That's going to be the 4 extra, so to speak, moves that Mewtwo will have at his disposal. That means that 4 of these other moves up here could be included. Initially, I was thinking Psychic would be there, but I was kind of talked out of that notion, because having Psystrike and Psychic is kind of redundant. Maybe Psychic might be like a move that is just kind of chilling out there, and it is a spammable move. But I'll be honest, with all of the coverage, and this being like the first legendary raid and all that stuff, I really feel like we're probably looking at the other moves up here for the resistances. And that's actually a really important factor here. So, being Psychic, the only 3 weaknesses are Dark, Bug, and Ghost. So, well, I kind of messed that one up, but Ghost right here. But nevertheless, so what you want to do is you want to start planning for this, okay? So, each one of my builds here on, well, two of my three builds, I kind of ignored Bug for various reasons. On Mew, focus on both Dark type and Ghost type. Now, the nice part about so like essentially you can do one or the other. Bug just has a lot of moves that kind of Bug has a lot of weaknesses. So Bug's not great. Bug might be plausible and possible, but I kind of feel like Dark and Ghost just have better moves altogether and have a lot higher likelihood of being successful in this fight. The other thing to take note here, now notice that when we went through this, so I've got Aura Sphere, which is a power 80. Aura Sphere is a very high likelihood. Aura Sphere is a move that Mewtwo is known to have. It's something that Mewtwo learns basically on level up. So I think Aura Sphere is like a 100% probability of being there. It's a power 80. It has no accuracy checks. Aura Sphere always hits. So Aura Sphere is going to be up there. Now, because of Aura Sphere, that does take kind of Dark out of the running, unfortunately. Fighting moves will hurt the Dark Terra. So, yeah, we got to be cautious about that. Number 2, Shadow Ball. Very high likely of Shadow Ball being there. And Ghost hurts Ghost. So, it's a power 80 move. It's a 100% accuracy move. It is what it is. But if that Shadow Ball isn't there, then Ghost, the only other move that could hurt Ghost would be Dark Pulse. If Dark Pulse or Shadow Ball are on there, Ghost isn't going to be possible. Ghost just isn't going to be a thing. Now that I'm really thinking about it, since Aura Sphere's almost guaranteed to be there, I'm going to change my build up on the Dark mod, and I'm going to build Bug and Ghost instead of Dark. I think Dark is kind of out of the running now that I'm really thinking about this. Ice Beam is possible. I don't really see it as a high probability, but it's a power 90 with a 100% accuracy move. And that is just going to basically be a little bit harder hitting, but at the same rate, that's going to take out anything that is weak to ice. We already talked about Dark Pulse. Now, I have Flamethrower and Fire Blast on here. Knowing what we know from raids in the past, I would say most likely Fire Blast would be the move that Mewtwo would go with. And I think there's a high likelihood being here because that's the only other move that really is in this build that has a low accuracy. Now, Fire Blast is going to hurt, obviously. Fire Blast is going to basically be the one thing that has a probability of taking out the Bug Terra type. Also being 110 is going to hurt a lot. But being an 85 accuracy, if you can actually affect Mewtwo's accuracy, you'll be in pretty good shape. Like in the rare situation that it hits, then you could use other moves to heal or something like that. You can use, rest. You can do Cheer Heal. There are options at your disposal. Because remember, Mew can learn every single TM in the game. So you have tons of options out there. So I think Fire Blast over Flamethrower personally. Thunderbolt's another power 90. Power 90, 100% accuracy move. Earth Power, same, and Energy Ball, the same. If I'm honest here, I kind of feel like, in all likelihood, we're probably looking at, obviously, like I said, Side Strike's going to be in the extra moves. Aura Sphere, most likely. I mean, Aura Sphere, I almost guarantee is going to be there. I feel like Fire Blast probably has a good probability of being there. It's a really powerful move, even though it has low accuracy. We've seen Mon use this a lot, and I mean a lot. So I'm thinking Aura for the 4 main moves. For the 4 main moves, Aura Sphere, Fire Blast, probably Earth Power, and I'm going to say either Shadow Ball or Dark Pulse. Either one of those could be in there. If not, then Energy Ball, but that most likely is what we're seeing. Now, there's a case and an argument for potentially Psy Strike not being in there. Being one of the main moves rather than being in the extra 4 moves. But I kind of feel like that most likely is going to be that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to use the 4 basic moves to actually cover up any kind of type disadvantage. Now, the one thing I want you to pay close attention to down here, and this is going to come into play with my Mew builds. While that is covered up, that is covered up, and that is covered up, there's one typing that is not, and that is Fairy. Now, there are moves that Fairy will be weak to, that Fairy is weak to. But the honest answer here is most of those moves are low power moves. I don't see those as having a high probability to be used. So in this circumstance, and based on what I'm seeing here, what I'm kind of guesstimating based on the other raids we've had, most likely your 3 probable builds are Bug, Ghost with a slightly lower probability, because Ghost does have two big weaknesses in this build. But then a Fairy type. And the really nice part is Fairy has at least one really solid move that you can use. And with nothing here to damage it, once you terrastalize into a Fairy Terra, I think Mew has the capability to do insane damage. The one thing you got to bear in mind, though, Mew has to buff. Mew is going to need to buff. If Mew doesn't buff, it's going to hurt. And this is the only Terra type here that I don't see having great coverage for. Now, we already know, like I said, Mewtwo's not going to have every one of these moves. But like I said, high likelihood fighting, medium likelihood either Shadow Ball or Dark Pulse, high likelihood Fire Blast, and probably medium likelihood Earth Power. You can kind of mix those up, but any one of these are things you need to watch out for. Now, as we like kind of whittle this down, as we come back and address this once Mewtwo drops and once we know what the moveset is, there might be other Terra types that you can open up with Mewtwo and a lot of other different situations that you can address. And we will definitely work on that later on this week. So if you want to come back on Friday or whatever, make sure you guys subscribe, stay up to date. If you want to come back on Friday, we'll probably have more Mew builds that you guys can build really easily to take this on. But for now, that's kind of what I see happening. We'll be back tonight to talk about some Mew builds. Like, comment, share, and I'll see you guys again soon for more Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.